What's the use in roads if you don't take trips on them? What's the use in minivans if you don't load them up with your dogs and your friends for spontaneous adventures? What do you get when you take a road trip to see and ride trains? I call this the Rail-Roadtrip. Our first pit stop was at Northwest Railway Museum in the small railroad town of Snohomish, Washington, where we took a few minutes to use the bathroom in the original Northern Pacific Depot from 1890 and admire some of Washington's largest collection of railroad rolling stock around the depot grounds. At the summit of Snoqualmie Pass, we pulled off to admire the blooming wildflowers, giving the dogs a chance to pee. Then it was back on the road for day one's journey to Pendleton, Oregon, cutting through the not-so-evergreen eastern half of Washington. Although surprising and rather unexpected, the U.S. is home to various pyramids. According to a chief among my Cherokee people known as Red Elk, or keeper of the pyramids, who happens to live in Washington, there are hundreds of pyramids around the world, including this one, heavily eroded by eons of eastern Washington's notorious high wind as it stands guard from government property on the hill above Yakima. The sun was setting beautifully as we crossed the Columbia River into eastern Oregon. We would awake alongside it to a brand new day in Oregon.
It's all around in there, and there might still be tracks all around. I was hoping, it's been converted, to an industrial site. I was hoping that the Railroad Museum could get established there and use the railroad cars for the tracks. But maybe not that one, but another road that goes kind of south and into the little towards central Oregon, and it was a branch line that curved along. And some farmer had saved a depot on his property, and it's basically just sitting there, no work done on it. He just moved it there and dropped it, and the roof is kind of falling in on it, but it's still interesting. Worth saving. It's a tiny little depot. It's a nice architecture.
Night fell as we arrived at Wild Horse Casino to camp for the night. Camping was freestyle tent camping in an open field, reminiscent of the native ways of camping in teepee villages among the plains. No assigned spots, just making shelter wherever it felt most like home. My 4-person quick-set tent by Mac is the perfect size for me and my gear. It sets up in just 2 minutes and packs up in less than 5. Despite losing the rainfly, this favorite tent of mine has lasted a solid 15 plus years. We grabbed everyone's go-to quick breakfast and set off on today's journey to Sumter Valley.
Truck driving route, but it's a steady climb. It's just a little intense. And
the way up here. Still got the original glass insulators on them.
Yep. Hemingway number 3.
I got some Hemingway 42s laying around that were common along the rail lines.
So it's an old sanitarium, a place where people used to go to gain their sanity again, it's kind of neat. It's just a neat old structure. I think they've done some renovations, and the lake over here steams. See, right there, the hot springs are right on the edge of the lake right there. So yeah, pretty neat. Through the sight tube, you'll see 3 pine trees in a row marking the descent on Ladd Hill. After dropping 100 feet to the valley, emigrants traveled past this, where you're now standing, then onto today's Bernie Memorial Park in La Grande, where they rested their animals prior to climbing the Blue Mountains. Here it said they found this at an 1850s home site, an immigrant home site, so it's something that would have been used early on in the development of the area. These 2 wagons list like typical food grains and dried meats and other things that would have been stored in those kegs on the wagon for the trip over. There's people that actually do wagon ride recreations, and they actually recreate the Emigrant Trail experience. It's a big event that happens periodically. Stop here first and check in.
Gold miners were as tough as the iron rails that carried their trains. Up with the whistles that blew before the sun even shone. Hot, humid summers and severely cold winters brought an extra burdening, humid continental climate. The 3-foot narrow-gauge Sumter Valley Railway, which ran 80 miles from Baker City to Prairie City, hauled their gold harvest as well as lumber and cattle. Almost 2 decades after the original track was scrapped in 1947, an over 6-mile stretch of track was rebuilt in 1976 when the railroad began tourist operation at the original dredge depot, renamed McEwen. Various pieces of railroad rolling stock from other famous narrow-gauge railroads, such as the White Pass and Yukon route, Denver and Rio Grande Western, and East Broadtop, are displayed here. With 2,000 feet of track built from materials donated by the Union Pacific Railroad, the depot track, Y, and tail track leading to the future locomotive shed were the first segments erected. An original water tower was brought down from Bates with the help of the Oregon National Guard. Over the next 15 years, 6 miles of track were laid by the hands of volunteers along the original right-of-way between McEwen and Sumter. The purpose of our trip is hidden among the rail yard at McEwen, and we will be returning here after our train ride. The small gold mining town of Sumter, the valley's namesake, is a step back in time nestled in the Elkhorn Mountains, part of the Blue Mountains. Following discovery of gold in 1862, it was established as a farming settlement, with the town being formally established in 1889, booming with the arrival of the Sumter Valley Railway in 1897.
And that's about the edge of Sumter here, where it kind of peers out.
We drove through town, stopping for lunch at a gas station with a restaurant known for its steaks and burgers, owned by a grill master spoke highly of by locals. Here, you could fuel your buggy and your belly. Sounds good to me. After giving the dogs a few minutes to roam and go to the bathroom, we went inside. The restaurant was packed with locals, and even had a pizza menu packed with outrageously named pies. We each had an awesome cheeseburger and fries before heading to the train depot to catch our train. Motive power being locomotive number 720, one of the few remaining narrow-gauge diesels in operation, and that's not the only thing to go bananas about. This diesel-electric locomotive was built by General Electric for Chiquita Land Company, where it hauled Chiquita bananas. Our chariot would be a former chicken coop, but more on that later. This original Sumter Valley coach was built in 1890. It's the oldest rail car I've ever ridden on.
Welcome to the train. The dogs say welcome to the train.
What are they?
They're healers.
Healers.
Yeah, she's a red and he's a blue and red mix called the Blue Mountain. Also cattle dogs, Australia, Queensland. Yeah.
We had a part healer and quarter collie.
Yeah, they often
She
mix
was
with other
super
dogs, but these are
smart.
pretty much straight. Yeah, so, well.
We don't know straight.
Oh, you're Boston. Come to your work.
Okay. Where do you want to go? You want that seat? She likes that seat. Okay, we'll take that one.
Can I just look at
Good
it?
boy. Good girl, Vino. Good girl. You want to sit down on your blanket? There we go.
The railroad's construction began at Baker City in 1890 and reached McEwen in 1891. In 1895, construction began on the extension to Sumter, completed in late 1897, and by 1910, the route to Prairie City was complete. Today, the main line is just over 5.2 miles long between Sumter and McEwen. 7 miles of total track, including sidings, spurs, and the rail yard at McEwen. This trip would not be a full 2-hour round trip to McEwen. Instead, a shorter 45-minute round trip, reversing direction about halfway.
This is about as bad as the fish. You know what year this car was built?
This car?
Yeah.
1905, 1910. I can't remember.
Somewhere in that range.
Yeah. But this is an original Sumter Valley car.
Okay.
It's kind of got a funny story. When Sumter Valley shut down in 1947,
Yeah.
they sold off all of the rolling stock to whoever would buy it. Most of it went to farmers and ranchers, and they used them for outbuildings and stuff like that. This particular car, let's see, this half of it, it was cut in half and made into two buildings. This half was a woodshed, that half was a chicken coop. When Sumter Valley reacquired it in the 70s, they married it back together and completed, of course, all of this wood was all gone.
Oh.
There was, in fact, the engineer that's running the engine right now, he's the one who rebuilt most of it.
Oh, wow.
And he said there was, like, right in the middle, there was 2 of these and an original window.
So enough to make a pattern.
Enough to make a pattern, he built the rest of it from that.
Nice, nice. That's great.
But yeah, and it's still an old wood car. Got wood beams underneath and big old truck rods that we got tightened all the time. Here in the last 2 years ago, we redid both ends of it. With all of the weight that's hanging on those truss rods is all connected to these rebuilt. He rebuilt all those. I got to help him put it all back together.
You have another massive car similar to this.
Yeah, we have one we call the Leviathan.
Yeah.
It wasn't an original Sumter Valley. It was actually an old standard gauge.
Okay.
So it's a lot wider. And the cool part about it is it's wider, so you got a lot more seating. And in the back of it, there's a big old puddle.
Oh.
And so there's about, I don't know, from here to about there, a big old parlor you can stand, and then a huge platform on the back.
What's the status of that car?
It's got a bad wheel set. And of course, being that it's old, it's really hard to find new wheel sets.
I see.
So we're actually working with a company to have one made.
I see.
And once we get that, we'll have it back.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the rest of the train, these two red cars were originally log flats. And we turned them into high-side gondolas and put seats in them. And then here last year, that same guy that did all this woodwork built the roofs and everything. So,
Oh, nice.
that green car at the other end is one that was built from the ground up in the 70s when they started this railroad back up. And then the caboose is an original Sumter Valley caboose.
Okay.
And it was sitting up in the mountains because of cabin for most of its life. And
Nice to get it back.
yeah. Kind of neat when we get the original stuff back, we're able to restore it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the story.
Thank you. Ready to go? Okay. Okay, guys. Let's go. Look. Same way off the train as we got on.
Having been the last trip of the day, it was time for the crew to take the train back to McEwen and put it to rest in the rail yard for the night. I got a special chance to ride Deadhead in the caboose with my friend Ted. It was time to experience the whole route in its entirety, from the cupola of the caboose, riding deadhead with Ted, back to the rail yard at McEwen where Olin would meet me with the van. My friend Ted works on the railroad here and is prominent in the Northwest Railroad community. Okay, we're riding deadhead back to McEwen Depot. See you when we get there. There it is. I love that sound every time. Never gets old.
Oh, they had several identical cabooses. They had several E's for most of their freight trains. I'm not sure which cabooses they had exactly, but I think these were the primary ones, and they were up to the end. You got a few more down the Ewan there. I think one's convertible and the other one's not been restored yet. I'm familiar with the air gauges here, but we got this Sidetracked gauge up here. Because of the air pressure, the lower needles for the brake cylinder pressure, the upper one's the brake pipe. And that red handle there is the conductor valve. You can dump the air, thing get out of control. Location called Rock Cut here. It's kind of feeling a little rocked into the railway. Disembark.
The rail yard felt like a ghost town as the crew put the train to rest on the far side of the yard. Distant horn blows and occasional rumbles of haunting thunder added ambiance to the chirping birds and rustic rail cars laying still under stormy skies. We returned by car to Sumter for a closer look at one of the largest and most accessible gold dredges in America. This dredge was built in 1935 as the last of 3 dredges built on the Powder River. Crews of 20 people were needed to keep the dredge running 24/7, with only July 4th and Christmas being observed, along with a 3-year hiatus during World War II. It dug up more than $4 million worth of gold with its massive boom equipped with 72 one-ton buckets, operating until 1954 when it was left where it still sits today. A silent and haunting reminder of blood, sweat, and hope, floating as a museum in the small dredge pond it once created.
To those Memphis nights and Vancouver's lights.
Our main base camp on this trip was the historic town of Baker City, Oregon, a key stop on the Oregon Trail incorporated with the gold rush in 1874. Downtown is well preserved in this historic county seat of Baker County, Oregon. After a home-cooked meal at the Baker Truck Corral restaurant, it was off to our hotel, the Quality Inn, the historic and former mining-themed El Dorado.
Fred on that.
We set off to the Home Depot, and I don't mean the hardware store. I'm talking about a house built as a replica train depot in the hills of Idaho. Trains don't stop here, but their spirit radiated like a beacon as we pulled up and my dream house stood before me. From a convincing and long-lasting cement replica of an old wood platform to a working semaphore, this place has all the bells and whistles. Even facades on the perfectly placed outbuildings that resemble a western town. Feeling like the set of a John Wayne movie, this place proved to be right at home among the surrounding landscape, as we hike to the back of the property to take care of some axles and rail that Olin's been storing here.
I mean, we said about 15. Is he just collected, or did he burn it up?
He got it someplace.
Okay, it's an oldie. What do you want to put on it right now? There you go.
Another friend of Olin's, who also lives in Idaho, joined us on this visit, and we'll be taking them back to his place for safekeeping, where he's in the process of building a live steam railroad around his property, powered by a 1980s wooden replica of a small diesel locomotive. Back in Oregon, Creedence Clearwater Revival carried us down the Blue Star Memorial Highway back to Baker City. Back in Baker City, I took a walk and found a historic cemetery, a memorial and former grave site of Chinese gold miners and railroad workers. These burials were only temporary from 1880 until 1940, when the remains were dug up and sent back to families in China for reburial. Thanks for coming along for the ride for part 1 of the Rail-Roadtrip. And as always, I can't wait to see what the next adventure brings and to take you along with me.